Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well out there today. So for this episode, I am going to be chatting to George Marios. Now, George, originally from Greece, came over to the UK when he was 17 years old and has built up a really great career playing guitar, teaching, gigging, touring, etc, etc. Now, if you don't know who George is, I will post the links to his stuff below in the description, his content, his website, his socials. Now, George was actually my guitar tutor as well, so I think you will find this episode really insightful as we just chat like we would do in real life, and he has since become a really close friend of mine, and we just hang out, play guitar and do what we did in this episode, really just talk and let it flow, and yeah, we get into all sorts. So yeah, enjoy guys. But before that, if you haven't seen George before, here's a few clips to whet your appetite. George, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, man. It's been
I
ages.
know it's been a while,
Time.
and good to see that.
You look even more handsome than before.
Oh well, staring at a Greek god,
Of
got to
course.
keep, got
Yes.
to keep it up appearances, keep up with the Joneses, as it were. Have you
Absolutely.
have you been?
Very good, man. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good.
Um,
What's news?
what's news? Gosh, what's news since last time I saw you? Uh, Finished the new record, got the masters yesterday, which is great because it's been a long time in the making.
Hmm.
Both a product of me being very anal, but also being very inexperienced. So if you haven't done many records, you tend to find mistakes along the way, and you have to redo stuff and this and that, and that mainly. And got a live band, a full band. Like I've been playing solo for the last like year and a half now, so it's good to have a live band to do the music more of a service, because the material. I mean, it.
Hmm.
Gosh, you played some of the solos. You've actually tortured yourself learning them.
That is actually
Uh,
torture. Yeah, talk about that in a sec.
it's like it's big production. So I mean, it's not a very big lineup. It's three more people, but at least the idea is to have a really tight four-piece, and then we'll decide if we add certain things like orchestras and stuff on a backing track. But the idea is to just have
Mhm.
four people sounding really tight, and then we'll add sprinkles like later. So yeah, that's been it mainly, man.
So this is your second album from Daffodil,
Yeah, this is the second. I mean, I've
the
released
difficult
some.
second album.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, not that many people heard the first one, so it's fine. The thing with this one also being more dedicated in the whole promotion approach, and I do think generally is a much better album, a much better sounding album. So I think I'll go about it differently certainly in terms of promotion. So we'll get to more people's ears. But yeah, I mean, it is the second original album. I mean, I released recently a live album, which is from the London
Oh, the
show,
solo show,
which
yeah.
it's a solo live album, which is fun. It's different, you know, nowhere to hide. It's quite cool. But yeah, that's the second album of new songs.
So these gigs coming up, you said you've just hired a band for
Well,
these
it's
live shows.
like, you know, it's just I just sort of been looking into the London scene and found some great people who are yeah, hopefully be more than just a session band. You know, hopefully for the third album, you know, I'll be doing it with people who have cultivated some sort of rapport, and you know, you know that you play with people,
Mm.
regular people, a lot of the time, and it's different than when you just play with some session person, which again, I mean, is great in this album. I mean, I had Darby Todd play the drums, who's now, I mean, he's on tour
Yeah,
with Devin
monster.
Townsend. Is unbelievable. It's just, I think it's a different thing. If you have the ability to be in a room with somebody and work on stuff for a while, you just get a chance to try more stuff and stuff. I mean, but you know, I was very happy. The drumming in this album is amazing. But hopefully in the next one, it will be more of a thing where I can spend some time in pre-production trying,
Yeah.
you know, because sometimes even a part, even just changing, oh, let's try it on the ride, and then the hi-hat or something on the kid, that can have an effect on the energy of a song or something. So it's like, it's good to have that sort of
Yeah.
thing, that more unit sort of thing. Yeah.
So these new songs you've obviously had written for a good while, I imagine. How is that going and putting this to a band and going like, right, you play this part, or especially going to someone like Darby, who's a very experienced drummer, and go, right, I want these parts to be. How much creativity did they have in playing on their own parts on it?
I mean, Darby, who played on the album, we did the whole thing sort of over like online. I mean, he's got his own home studio where he records, and you know, he's a very busy guy.
Yeah.
He records from home, and we did it. It was well, I'm not sure which COVID wave it was. What was it? It was like, I think it was
Like the fifth or something.
I thought it would be 4 weeks, but you know, it was, well, you know, it was well into COVID, and I think I had uh developed the songs. I mean, I had done demo drum parts and stuff, and I mean, I always, especially when you have someone like, you know, Darby, who's a fantastic drummer, very experienced. I always like to say, okay, well, I have an idea for it, but you know, I'll leave it open ended, and you can try something. So for some stuff, we stuck to parts that I had pretty much written, but others he sort of very wisely tried some other things that worked a little better. So we ended up going with them. The bass, I played myself, which was fun. It's interesting now. I have a really good bassist to play with, and it's nice to hear the parts played properly, let's say. But you know, it's fun. I had some, and a lot of the stuff, it was just even the keys, which I mean, I'm not a keys player, was just sort of trying my luck. And I had a few more obscure instruments like oud, which is like a sort of a, I guess you do have maybe in Celtic music, you might also have ouds, but I
Yeah.
mean, we have it a lot in Greek music, Middle Eastern music. So
You get in your homegrown kind of
there you go. So I got a really
influences.
great oud player from Athens, and
No way.
some gospel singers and stuff. But yeah, it was. I mean, that's the thing. It was quite a homemade sort of project, apart from the drums and some other instruments. And um, it's easy when you're on your own little space to take your time. It's sort of knowing you when you're like, okay, when it's time to abandon something. It's like it can't get any better.
Yeah.
I feel like I certainly took my time with some things, especially on the vocal front or whatever. Some changes in production, they were ultimately a good thing. But I think after a point, I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And I mean, Billy, which I'm not sure if you met, but my cousin, he did the bulk of the mixing, you know, and then we worked on it
Amazing.
together relentlessly as well. So it was very, very cool to keep up with my changes in stems and this and that. But ultimately, we got something we were happy. And Steve from the Pineapple Thief done the masters, who's, you know, he's exceptional, a really good mastering engineer.
So he's
yeah.
mastering it as well.
Yeah, Steve's mastered it, and
Amazing.
he's great, very, very dynamic sort of mastering engineer.
So
You know, now some masters are like a huge from the
yeah,
beginning. It's huge. There's just everything is just so loud and so in your face, and I just like the fact that he's got a more dynamic approach, so you can have different nuances among sections and stuff.
yeah. I mean, in those Pineapple Thief albums, if he's mixing any of them or mastering any of them, like they're incredible, aren't they? So
Yeah, very good, very good. Definitely great perception as far as sound goes. Yeah.
So for people who may not like know you, um, give us
We're
a
doing it after.
huh?
Yes, I probably they might be like, "Who's the guy talking?" Or maybe I
Oh, I
forgot
think
to
people
introduce
will know
myself.
you. People will know you. I mean, and we'll go into like our background and like how I got to know you and
Okay,
stuff.
X-rated, but
Yeah. Not for camera. We'll definitely cut that. But like,
yeah.
can you give us a bit of a brief, like, you know, who you are? How did you start off playing
Yeah.
guitar
Sure,
and stuff?
totally. I'm George Marius. Hello. Hi. I was born in Greece, in a small city called Kavala in northern Greece. I had very little interest in music initially, so my parents would beg me to play music, but I would be like, I thought it was highly uncool.
Mm,
And when I was 14, I believe, I overheard S&M, the symphonic album of Metallica, from a friend's balcony, and it was just one of those things that's just somehow something happens. It's very hard to explain, and you sort of feel a calling to the music. I didn't per se want to be a guitarist or whatever. I just started listening to the music, and I think I was about 15 and a half or something. I was doing too much air guitaring, and then I ended up saying, okay, well, I'd like to start with the guitar. And it's funny, like in Greece at the time, I mean, things have changed now with the internet, but there used to be a very much like, oh, well, you have to start classical and then go to electric, which
yeah,
makes no
the old
sense. It's
acoustic guitar to
nonsensical.
electric kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
nonsensical. It makes no sense.
yeah.
It's just silly. Um, so there was a bit of back and forth with my folks. We're very supportive, but they were like, oh, maybe we should send you to a conservator. But I was like, no, I want to do electric. Um, so I got an electric, and then um, I met. I was taking lessons with a guy who was a bass player, like, but also taught guitar. Then I met a guy called George Caraspiris, who was a teacher he's a teacher in the UK from the same town, and he showed me some things on the guitar. And then I took more regular lessons by a guy called Kostas Paraskevas of Nemesis Guitar School. Maybe he's on Facebook or Instagram. You
Yeah.
might know him. And he's a quite admirable guy because he started bringing quite well-known guitarists in a small town. So he's one of the first guys in Greece, independent guys, to start doing like clinics. I know now it's different because the world is more
Massively.
interconnected. I remember seeing Kiko Loureiro, for example,
Mm,
from, well, Angra, Megadeth,
yeah.
uh, maybe not
He's just
Megadeth
left now,
anymore.
isn't he?
I think,
Yeah, or something.
yeah. Um, so we got to see a lot of great guitar players, and he's done a lot for the scene. And then yeah, so then I went to Leeds College of Music. I did the pop course, which ultimately the course was not great, but I liked Leeds. I'll tell you why I did, because I
Mm,
think in relation to other places, like I might get me in trouble, whatever. But I just
so
feel like there's certain I don't even know the names of the schools, like the ICMP, and
like
is that, what is it? Is it even Guitar Institute anymore or
yeah,
something?
Guitar
What is it
Institute and
called?
like BIM and
I feel
ACM
like
and
they're a
stuff
bit
like that.
more, just from what I've heard, because I teach some people who've been there. Like it seems a bit too more less interconnected. It's like the
Mm,
guitar players and the bass and the drummers and the singers, and they do
100%.
play together. But the thing I liked with Leeds, it was like you had, like I said, I did the pop course, which was academically was not particularly great, but great, some really inspiring teachers and great people, but the course itself was not amazing. But you were in the same space as people that did classical, people that did jazz, people that did Indian classical music. So if you wanted to, if you were curious in nature, you could literally knock on doors and play with everyone, which is, I think, the biggest gift
Yeah.
I had from that school. Uh,
To
and
network with
then
those people, maybe a styles you wouldn't even thought of
get a
back then.
feel for it. Just being in a room and you have to imagine different times. Now we're talking 2007. I came to this country, to England, when I was 17, and
Yeah.
I haven't heard of sitar before, or tabla, or I never been in a room with someone playing the saxophone.
Yeah.
So it's pretty unbelievable in that respect. And I just wanted to squeeze every little ounce of life from this place. I was very involved in that. I think that was the best thing about that school. Uh, and I know the jazz course meant to be really good. I'm not sure what and I also uh, when I was right before I went to Leeds, a guy says, "Oh, look, there's this great guitar player called Tom Quayle." Just randomly, another Greek guitar player sent it to me on MySpace
Right.
when it was MySpace.
Yeah.
Some people don't know it. It was like a social media kind of thing to share.
It was the OG,
interests.
wasn't it? Yeah.
It was, yeah. And I heard Tom play, and I was very blown away. And I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's insane!" Whatever. And I found out he was in Leeds. So as soon, I think the first week I landed there, I said to my parents, "Can you give me some money? I want to get some extra private lessons." So I had some lessons with Tom as well, which were fantastic. You know, being exposed to a player of that caliber, and and we ended up seeing each other quite a bit and hanging out and stuff. So so that was, I guess, to summarize. And during my, I think up until the time I was like 20 years old, I was more focused on the guitar thing. Like I wanted to be the best guitar player in the world, whatever.
Yeah,
That's a stupid term, but
No, yeah.
just want to be. I was very interested in the guitar prism of things, and then I moved to London when I was. I had a bit of a band, but we didn't end up doing anything. So then I moved to London when I was 22, and that's where I started slowly writing more. Like started writing songs, and being more interested in songwriting. And and I mean, of course, I couldn't really. I was pretty crappy at singing at the time. I'm not amazing now, but I worked hard on that. So I just started writing songs basically, and playing. When I first came here, I would just do supporting gigs, just play guitar for singers, or just when you first come to a place like London, I think you just try and play with everyone, and then eventually you end up zooming into what it is that you want to do, because there's only so many hours in a day.
Sure.
Especially if you have a family, you have different priorities. You want to narrow in on something, and so after a point, I just wanted to really focus on my music, and I did was interested in doing the session thing, but there was two artists that I would want a session for. One was Sting, and the other was the Pineapple Thief. So I was a big fan of those two artists,
Right.
and I still am, of course. And
you've nailed one.
The Daffodil record, I reached that. Yes, I had it was fantastic, really great experiences. So yeah, how that happened when I wrote Daffodil, I reached out to Bruce, who was the singer of the Pineapple Thief. I reached as a fan. I said, "Look, I've got this album. Do you mix other artists?" And he said yes. So we started communicating. He did the mix, and I ended up going to his, and we just left it at. I just think said something like, "Just keep me in mind if you ever run out of guitar players or something." And then eventually, I joined them for a couple of years, from 2018, and of course, I admired everyone in this band. They're a great unit, and working incredibly together. And I mean, Bruce is one of my favorite songwriters. I think he's really admirable. But everyone, of course, was a big fan of Gavin's as well, from Porcupine Tree, and so we did a couple of years with them. Did a few records as well. So I think I did some stuff for the special edition of Disillusion, or did a live record from the tour in Europe, and a DVD/album Blu-ray in lockdown. And then ever since, I've been solely focusing on just my stuff. So I've been doing, like I said in the beginning, like a lot of solo shows.
Yeah.
So I've had the good fortune to open for some great artists like Alex Henry Foster in a couple of parts of their UK tour, and Lazuli, who I'm playing again. What is it, next Thursday at the 229? So I've been just solely zooming into that sort of
A few moments later.
This is a smooth edit because James froze.
Yeah,
because
was
his internet provider is not great.
Virgin Media.
No, basically, I said, the interesting thing in my personal journeys, I've had a sort of some audience who've just came for mainly the guitar playing and interested in that, and I'm very grateful for that. But it's interesting try to acquire a new audience, but also get that audience to be interested in more of the music side of things, which, of course, it's a crossover that maybe it's happened for some people, for others it hasn't. But I think, and you can relate because we've had those conversations even back when we started sort of getting to know each other and having lessons. It was like when especially age is a factor. When you grow older, you really have to, if you know what it really is that you want to do, you just sort of focus on that, because there's only so many hours in a day, and it's hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
So it's different when you're like, I was 22, 21. You come to a new city, you want to play with as many people, get to know as many people, and I guess what happens after all, no, you want to find the right people for you and just focus on what it is that you want to do, because um, there's just not enough time to do everything, or at least to do a billion different things. At least in my case.
Yeah, and you've progressed from that. Okay, I just want to be that guitarist kind of, well, even though you are, from my point of view, you are a virtuoso, and to a lot of people, I'm sure they would agree. But you're going to a kind of a songwriting kind of you see yourself more as a, which you should do. You're a songwriter, you're a musician, you're not just a guitarist. You're not labeled just as a guitarist.
Yeah, I mean, like, and don't get me wrong, instrumentalists, they're also songwriters. I mean, I think, I mean, sometimes people talk about songwriters. They just think, okay, maybe a piano and acoustic guitar, because that's the whole songwriter genre, right? But I think, like Satriani is a songwriter, Coltrane is a songwriter.
Yeah.
It's a different format, but they're songwriters. They have songs. I mean, so, but yeah, I guess it's that it's like the outlook sort of thing. It's like, yes, like I just, something you can't help but do is sort of, it's the way to get what's inside, what's around you, and just somehow express it. And yeah, some people enjoy it, others don't. That's absolutely fine. Others just prefer to be on board with somebody who does that. That's absolutely great as well, because everyone has a role in this, sort of thing.
Do you think a lot of people have that kind of, they'll record guitar parts for what people want to think they should hear from them? Or like I mean, if people don't know the background, is like I came to George for lessons going back a bit, and this is going back to you alluded to.
That was scary, because I saw James's video wanting a lesson. I'm like, this guy is on fire. What are we gonna do with him?
Oh, and there was a lot, right? I mean, so I came and saw George maybe, well, going back a bit now, but
it was 4 years ago, 4.5.
Yeah, I think it must be 2018, maybe 6 years ago, maybe. But I just remember being like, because I had seen you, obviously, you talked about the MySpace thing earlier, and I'd seen you jam with Tom back in the day. So I think that was my original kind of gateway into seeing you play. And like you were, even at a very young age, at a super high level, right?
On some things, I mean, I was very ignorant on other things, but I was very into what it is that I was doing. But I would argue I had many and still have deficiencies,
But like everyone does. But you had you developed your own kind of sound quite early on, I would say. Maybe that was a kind of,
Yeah, I mean, that's a point of interest to some people that enjoy what I do, I guess, is that particular blend of that sounding, there's certain features which are now very, by the way, I'm not saying I created them, but I'm saying they're just much more with those global osmosis. They're much more clusters, big slides and big intervals. But I just sort of, that I gravitated, I naturally sort of, I don't know what happened, but that was sort of part of the sound that shaped quite early on.
Yeah, you can hear it. It's a good thing to have a guitarist have their own sound. But yeah, I remember coming to have lessons. We did online lessons because obviously you were in London and we started online lessons. I was in Plymouth. But I just remember, I remember like logging off after the first lesson and being like, oh my God, like it's just another world had like kind of opened up, which I didn't realize was there. In terms of like little things which I'd never really maybe thought about, you've come from a similar different background to mine, haven't you? Like that kind of rock kind of, not really thinking like, I remember you going,
if I made a Marvel movie about our origins, it would be very similar,
Yes. Yeah, I think so. But I remember you like, the talking intervals and things like this, and the fretboard, seeing the fretboard, the visualization. I was like, I don't know, I just know 3-note per string kind of shapes, and I just.
But that's fairly new. It was fairly new to me as well. And it came out of necessity because I found, like, I think a lot of people, when they heard my playing, they thought it was very sophisticated or whatever, but it wasn't really. I mean, I was always attracted into the sound. So I think sound wise, like, it's a rich sound. It was then like slides, clusters, wide intervals, but there was not a lot of thought. It was very instinctive. So I had to like sort of try and understand a bit better because I wanted to apply it over certain settings. So that was actually for me, like, it was not till 2016, 17, I started to really go more seriously into it, because for me as well, it was like, I could see the limitations. So there's a lot more scenarios I can use that stuff now, because you know, again, it's the similar thing. Like it's more like instinctive, and but I could throw in 100 different occasions where I wouldn't have been able to make it work. So it was, I had the same thing you did basically when I got into it, and um you know, I think it's fine. I think it's good. I mean, I have the same, you know, I think I told you in lockdown, there's a local guy called Andrea Rinciari, fantastic straight ahead guitarist. So in lockdown, I started listening to jazz more. So I took some lessons off him, and I had the same thing when I left the first class. Like, oh, it's fantastic. It's a whole new
It was.
way of doing things, and it's nice. It's what you want, you know, and it's always growth, you know, and this path, you know.
It's always it felt like starting again, like a blank canvas, which was good. Because there was things that I needed to hear which I didn't, which your you know, you could see that you can't necessarily see in your own playing, which is always great when you have a third perspective. And you just didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. You like kicked my ass, as it were, you know.
Yeah, but that's your credit. But I think also, and I'd like to think I'm similar-ish when you go to somebody and you just trust, as if there's a level of trust. It's like you just because I always think, like, you know, if you go and have a lesson and they say, oh, it's all great, then they're not being truthful. That doesn't mean it's all bad, but it's like, you know, it's the same when I have my vocal classes. Unfortunately, not too often nowadays, but the great guy Jesse Smith, he sings at the Classic Rock Show. He's a songwriter as well. He's amazing. Like, yeah, you just want to have your ass kicked, you know. Or it's the same when I have a group of people, just two people, three, where I send stuff. If it's a song or something, you're like, okay, well, just tell me how it is. Like, give me your honest perspective. Or if I run mixed by someone, I mean, I was quite fortunate to have been able to connect for this album, just to send some mixes to some very big mixers who were just very gracious with the time. And I just told them, like, be brutal, like, because what's the point of hearing what you don't, what you want to hear? No, what's the point of not getting the true perspective? I mean, it's counterproductive to growth and everything else.
No, 100%. I think, and we're probably from a time as well where it's we could be a lot more honest with people, like nowadays, especially like people going on to, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day, but you know, what you see online and social media and stuff is so perfect. It's like people just see that end product. They don't know the hard work, or how, like, it's hard to like swallow someone's their ego to know how that hard work goes into it, if you know what I mean. So like,
yes, I do find that sometimes. To be honest, you know, for me personally, because you do wrestle with it, and I think it's especially something we wrestle with, things that we're more insecure about. So one of the things I've been very insecure, and partly because when I started getting interested in it, a lot of people who I respected said, why would you bother doing that? Why don't you just get someone else to do it? Is the singing part. And one of the reasons why I wanted to play solo, literally, I tell myself, I'll say, I'm going to get a set. I'm going to get 90-minute set, which some of it you can hear on the YouTube clip. I mean, I haven't included some songs have not been released yet, so I didn't want to put them out as unplugged. But, you know, I really wanted to do this as a challenge, because if you play solo, which is just an electric guitar and a vocal in my case, you cannot hide.
No.
And if you record a live album like that, you can't really tweak or do overdubs. It's just what it is, because, you know, you're using the room mics and your guitar, and it's all very raw. So one of the reasons why I wanted to play that and also have a live recording, it's that kind of thing, because it's not perfect, but it's like very honest, and it's like people connect to that a lot more. The honesty resonates in everything, whether it's music, painting, film, you know. And I think that's why things have been sort of going downhill on the culture, is because I don't feel there's just a lot of authenticity. It's like, oh, we need to hit those quotas, or we have this sort of, you can't, it just doesn't, you have to, it has to stem from an authentic place, you know. It has to stem from, and people resonate with that. Nothing is perfect, but if it's true, at least you get, you know, you get something that is irreplaceable, you know.
And going by your show, like, obviously I've seen, I'll post below your live electric shows just solo. When you go into that, how much are you sticking to the structure of the songs, and how much are you improvising within that? Because I know firsthand, like obviously you can improvise like crazy, but how much?
Oh,
And obviously when you're on stage and it's live and like everyone's watching, to be in like a free flow like that where you can improvise off the cuff, and how much practice does that take?
yeah, I think that was a lot. So I mean, for the best part of 10 months before leading to that, because that, I mean, that was just. I know it was not like a big deal, but it only was to me because it felt like it's sort of a reference point. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
at this point, I want to book a gig and just see where we are, and then the journey goes on, sort of thing. But like, yeah, it was like I would put in about 6 to 8 hours a week rehearsing in a just hire a space and just go. Because the truth is, I wanted to set out. I wanted to have the ability to be more flexible,
Yeah.
so to improvise and stuff. But it's weird because that particular style, which is, I guess, alternative hard rock kind of, it's sort of a crossover. At least the solo version, it's a bit like Chris Cornell meets Jeff Buckley. Not, I don't have Jeff Buckley's
Mhm.
voice, but the atmosphere and stuff.
The feel you get.
It meets other maybe aspects of guitar playing, like Andy Timmons, which I adore. I think he's one of the
Yeah.
most melodious people. There isn't something like that out there which I can like, that's all that stuff together where I can sort of draw ideas from. So what I wanted was just to be like, okay, well, if I know the form of the songs enough, and by form I mean like, not necessarily, of course, the sections to the songs, the chords, but like, just if I'm comfortable with seeing the movements
Hmm.
all around the neck, and trying to find a way to be able to do the lines that I like to do, which are sound a little bit chordal as they are anyways, with all the slides, and communicate the harmony at the same time. Because it wasn't like a jazz solo gig, which I cannot do, by the way, but like, which you can listen to Joe Pass, and you can listen to various, and you can have some sort of framework to work with. And I'm not saying this because it's easier, uh, by no means. I'm just saying, oh, you can listen to a few people and just get some ideas on how to do it, sort of thing. The problem I had was like, well, I don't just want to strum the chords.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with that, again. But like, I don't just, I don't want to do it as a duo, because I want to have the freedom to just, maybe if I want to change some chord or extend a section. So it was just finding that, and that was very consistent. Like every week, 6 to 8 hours, just going in a room, and once you sort of find a groove with some things, um,
And the
then you
songs are not
get.
hard, right? You are singing. You got that
Uh,
Chris Cornell kind of,
uh, try
voice.
to
Yeah, yeah. I
well,
mean,
but like, it's sort of, and of course, taking voice lessons really helped, um because, again, I mean, Jesse's a great teacher, and unfortunately, because of how we're just so far apart, like, he's not in London. I mean, London is big, so
mm,
if I haven't been able to go weekly or whatever, but even just getting one lesson a month or something, he's very good at sort of pinpointing exactly what you need to work on, and that really helped. And it's just, yeah, putting the hours in, I think. But the for me personally, the hardest thing was just knowing how can you communicate this music so that it stands out well, but done in a way that I can still maybe improvise, but then still communicate the harmony and stuff like that.
uh,
So it's an exploration, really. But it is a thing. The thing I like about it is the freedom, and it's so exposed. And
yeah.
if you let go of the idea that everything is going to be perfect, and
Mm.
just be in the moment, and you've done the work, then you're going to come up with something that's honest, and hopefully people relate to. Uh, but again, in hindsight, yes, my music is better represented with the full band. So it's much more of a restrictive process now.
But it works as just the vocal and guitar, right? It's great that you can do that, and then when you have the band as well, it just always lifts it to a different dynamic, isn't it? I guess it's whatever. And you really, as a solo artist, when you're playing on your own, just the guitar and voice, you've really got the audience. You can take them wherever you want. You're not
You're
relying
right.
on your
Yeah,
time and your everything
100%.
like that. So it's different challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're in in a full band and you coexist. There is a hierarchy of ranges. There's there's the kit that and the bass that has a certain. I mean, the drums have a huge, like cymbals at the higher end, and the kick and the low end and mid. They are the core, and I love drums. I love drummers. I think drummers is, if you play with a real drummer, they are the foundation of they make time feel good.
Yeah.
So you have to choose them very wisely. But like, you just the challenge with that was just being restricted, sticking to the part, because to be honest, that's going against my natural intuition of the ethos I've cultivated all those years, because I was always more into improv. But
Yeah.
it just doesn't really have to be. So I am improvising part of the solos and stuff, whatever, but it's you have to stick to an arrangement, because then it's about the the team sort of the music being served by the team in a good way,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So you talked
Yeah.
about the second album, just finishing up that now, and you've recently brought a live band together. And so this is the thing, you're going to take on the road. You're going to be start gigging regularly, or is there a show coming up that people can go and watch?
Yeah, well, there is. Yeah, the show coming up on the 229, which is supporting a really fantastic French band called Lazuli. I mean, they're so melodic and so creative and really outstanding. And that's going to be a solo show. That's because the band they have so many instruments on stage, and it's very difficult. That's the challenge with having a band, for changeover and stuff. So that'll be a solo show.
Yeah.
My goal with this band is to first of all, like I said in the beginning, I think is to start cultivating relationship with other musicians for a future original music.
Yeah.
But also to do targeted sort of opening shows, and eventually, I think again, might be controversial, but it's true. And if people are afraid to say it, I don't particularly care. But a lot of the promoters, I'm not going to name any, but there's a few good ones that try their best, and if they end up watching this, they'll know who they are. But there's a lot of that where they're just not really promoting gigs. I mean, they'll get 5 original bands that say, yes, bring 10 people each, and you'll get no money, and they underpay their engineers, and their engineers are usually not very experienced. I mean, there's no point doing that.
No.
Not at this stage where I'm now. I'm in my early 30s. The people that I play with, they also have a busy schedule. You want to make gigs that make sense. So for me, the goal with this is, once we, the idea is to get a 35 minute set together. The music is not the easiest one, in the world, but we're getting there to sounding really tight. So it's to be able to have like a group of the Avengers, to be able to assemble them, say, look, there's a good opening gigs are great, especially if you do them in smaller venues. I mean, venues like O2 and stuff can often impose really really sort of controlling rules, which do not help upcoming bands. And I hope that some of the bigger bands will eventually do have some sort of joint action towards that, because it's very hard. But if you go to independent venues, and there's still some in London, which is great, where you can say, okay, you can at least keep all your merch, and even if you're supporting a band and they're not able to pay you that much, if I can sell some merch, because obviously there's expenses, the musicians need to be paid at the end of the day and stuff. So but with this, I know that it's gonna be, for me, it's been just having it, start playing with people, but because I missed that, and having a unit, started having the unit, because it's just a long form sort of scope, a long-term scope with this, like for the third record, like I said, I would like to do with people that I've been playing for some time, so we can try stuff out. And if there's a good gig opportunity, I can be like, okay, well, let's pin this in the diary, and I'll know that all I need to do is 1 or 2 rehearsals, and we've got the material. And because I don't feel, especially with the internet now, I'm not sure how much volume, like in terms of gigging, helps really. Maybe there was a time where there was a scene. I mean, there was a great place in Old Street called Charlie Wright's, and they used to do an open mic every Thursday. And actually, with the people that I was playing at the time, I was doing my own stuff. It used to be a bit more pop rocky. I took it offline because I didn't think it sounded very good, but maybe I'll re-upload it at some point. We used to play there every Thursday, and it was a feeling of a scene. Like, you used to have 80 to 100 people who would go there. You get the same musicians going in a crowd, and it was actually really great. I mean, that place ended up being demolished because is not there anymore, and many places that did that are not there anymore. So I feel like there's not as much of a scene anymore. And my point being, I feel like maybe if you're more surgical online, then there's no really a point doing 15 gigs for 10 people in various places for promoters that don't give a shit. You know,
Yeah.
just I think it might be best to just focus on one, or maybe see if you can get an opener gig. Because the great thing with an opener gig is you play with a band that, even if they're a bit bigger than you, you might preach and make some converts. You know,
That's the thing.
and if you took your own venue, it means you put your heart into it, you promote it, and then if it's an independent venue, which hopefully you know there is still some going all over, you can have better terms, you know, which are good for them but also good for you. So you can make it an event and actually come out at least breaking even, you know, after you've paid the musicians, the engineer and stuff, and even keep some money in your pocket. So I think
even before you get to the gig nowadays, it seems to be this process of, you know, you got to tick these boxes before you even get to the gig. So it's almost like the gig is the easy part, and it's the building up, it's the promoting it, and it's the marketing online. It's almost like that skill that no one told us about. We just wanted to play guitar or be musicians, but to learn that is so better.
Totally, and I'm not, you know, I'm probably not great at it. You know, it's this thing you have to. I think that the problem is it's having a direction sort of thing. It's almost like, because the other thing, I think the challenge, and again, some people are amazing at doing that. I'm kind of learning, I guess, still, but it's when you have to micromanage everything. It's just knowing exactly what to do. I guess a lot of it is trial and error, but it's like when almost like if I'm personally on a creative wave, and that means that I wake up, of whatever, taking a walk down a workout, and I'm coming back and I'm just writing until it's time to have a session workshop or whatever. Then I'm not really there to then go and post on social media. I have to commit to that wave. I have to ride the wave to see if something comes out of it. And then when you've ridden the wave and you've put the work and you record it, then it's almost a different mindset. And now I'm like, okay, well, you sort of take a step back and you try to plot an elaborate plan, as Baldrick would say. What did he say?
Cunning plan. Yeah, it is like that. It's become to the point where, you know, even just finding a venue, for one, getting people to come out and watch you as an originals thing is so tough, because your heart and soul is into that. And it's not like playing a covers gig or anything like that, which, you know, you're going to go to this venue. It doesn't really matter who's there or not. You're going to get paid, especially if you're playing function stuff or whatever. But because this is, you know, this is a long process. It's not just one gig for you. It's the build up of writing it. It's the build up of getting this band together or playing the solo show. But it seems to be like the time you get to the actual gig, it's almost like a relief that this actually going ahead, and you've got, it's the pressure, isn't it? That is a different kind of pressure as a musician. Forget the finances aspect. It's the pressure of just being successful as an originals. I think it's tough, you know.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I think it's very important to the first pat in your in the shoulder should come by the work itself. Like, but it is hard. It is hard because if you wrote a record and nobody heard it, did you write a record? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, is it? Yeah, it is difficult. It is very difficult. But like, I don't know who said this, but you know, you could fail on a million things that you don't care about, so you can try this. And I think what I learned, a great lesson I took away from the Pineapple Thief actually, is those guys. I'm not going to reveal their age. They're really good looking guys, and they look unbelievable. But you know, there's a few years between us. But you know, they managed to do this full time later on into their lives. You know, so. But what they were consistent at were just putting out good music, you know. And good music. So, and you know, of course, obviously, when you know Gavin joined, it was a whole new scope and creativity and stuff, and consistently putting great music after that, and they managed to go full time later in their life, which is, and I don't think there is a recipe anymore, you know, because with you can get a little break by an accident. Somebody might. I mean, it was even like back in the day with more conventional records. Gavin, do you know Gavin DeGraw?
Yes.
I don't want to be anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
this guy.
Yeah.
he had this record out for a year or two and did nothing, and then they managed to sing this song with One Tree Hill, which was a show, like an
I
American
remember
sort of,
it. Yeah, like this, like frat American
yes,
TV show.
very deep existential show. And it was huge. What I mean is there is an unpredictability. What I think you just need to be true to what it is that you're doing and just do what you want to do, and then think this through. But you just have to be honest with yourself, and because I think people can tell when someone is not being sincere. Eventually, you get found out, because how long can you keep the
100%.
facade?
Yeah, you can't. And I think there's a lot of that goes on, isn't there?
Yeah. I think that was, to be honest, that was always the case. It's just easier now to get your phone and put your facade out there, and back in the day was a bit more difficult.
Yeah,
It was
yeah. It's
just not. Yeah,
you can reach a lot more people now. Sure, it has its positives, but it definitely has its negatives with that kind of thing as well.
there's more noise, right? There's more. I mean, everybody.
Oh man,
so many people writing uh, music, which is great, but there's just a lot of stuff out there.
it's distracting. I
It's
find
hard.
it's
It's hard.
yeah.
Totally. It is tricky. I certainly find that for sure.
So with the tour, would a potential tour be? Is that where you want to take it with the band? Maybe getting on a support tour first and just trying to.
I mean, I think objectively, just from just learning a little bit more about it while I was sessioning for TPT, like, yeah, that is your best case, especially if you have something good to offer. If you go, and again, that is the main challenge with that is it's a solo project. So we're not, if you go on tour and say, okay, well, you have to take 3 weeks off, right? That is and for someone like me and again, that's on me. I just didn't really produce a lot much of passive income, because some people have passive incomes or whatever. Guitar courses and stuff. For me, that was partly, and that might not be right, it was partially a thing of not doing this to have more of a zoned in interest on the music when that comes out. But anyway, that aside, I have to be there for my work, because it's mainly I'll do workshops and one-on-one sessions and stuff like that. So I have to take that out, and I have to pay the band, and I have to pay the engineer, and I have to pay the crew. And my best hope would be that and you can either get somebody who's so invested who will put money in the band, which it happens, and that's actually something that it's actually, I think I was chatting somewhere about the other day, like there's people who just looking for projects to put money on.
They see a long-term investment and a return,
or it's just that there's just money there, and it's also for tax purposes you can do that. But just if you got if you and I had thousands to hundreds of thousands to spare, we'd probably want to find something fulfilling to support.
Sure.
Or you're in a situation where you've got a really good brand where your merch is really good, and you can sell enough to at least mediate the losses. Or you sort of are in a tour where you're with gracious hosts who will cover some of your losses, but you are going to go out at a loss. And it's just whether it's a good investment, and that makes things challenging, but it is what it is. Like for me, yes, ideally I would like to go to do an opening sort of tour with similar sort of solo artist or a band with a similar sort of sound. That's great, because then you have an audience, and
I think with your audience, because you're playing and vocally, I know you're kind of your solo stuff and your record is more the rock stuff, but you have elements in your playing from like rock, pop, jazz, fusion. It's going to cater for a lot of people, so you're gonna attract those guitar players, but then you have got the people who are just generally just into songs and songwriters, and you're not just going to get 100% male dudes like geeks at your show, like wondering what gauge string.
They're welcome as well, man.
Nothing wrong with that.
Anybody who likes the music, but I mean, again, it's kind of early to tell. For me, just being a realist, like the point is to have a really good campaign. I mean, I'm really happy with how the record sounds. I mean, the main thing was I wanted a record that could rival record where a lot of money had been, been recording in a huge studio with a big budget, but also sounds true to the music.
Yeah.
So it's not an overly compressed record where everything is on. It's a dynamic record that sounds very current. So it's just, for me, realistically, is running a really good campaign and then doing targeted shows. So finding what I do, and I think that's how I got most of the good support gigs. I basically find artists I like, and I harass them. I basically no, I mean, very sincerely, I will contact. I mean, with Alex Henry Foster, which, I mean, he's an amazing artist and they're an amazing band. This band is literally, I mean, I opened for 2 of their shows, one in London and one in Thekla, Bristol, the boat.
Oh yeah.
Those guys, it's so free. It's like a jazz, but more of an art alternative rock kind of thing.
Right.
Unbelievable. But I was aware of their music, and they opened for the Pineapple Thief. I mean, I wasn't in the band already, but I had left, but they were opening. So I just sent them a message, and we had some good rapport. And then I ended up just doing a tape of me playing solo in the studio and sending it, and asking basically really, really upfront. Same with Lazuli, and and some people are gonna say no, but it's not gonna hurt if you're sincere and courteous and you're not an idiot. I can be an idiot sometimes, but just a little.
Vouch
in the
for
tolerable.
that. Yeah, vouch for that.
But like, if you're sincere, it won't hurt. So I think what I usually do is I'll see, okay, who's playing in London that I could open for, and now with a full band it's a different scope because I can find someone who has a harder sound. Before I couldn't really do that. It was a bit, I couldn't open for like really heavy hard rock band. It would not be let's say as fitting, but. And really, and I urge you to do that, guys, girls, whatever. Just look who's playing and message them with your stuff. Choose 1 or 2 songs, or if you have a live clips are great because like it's showing you doing the thing.
Absolutely.
You're a very established session guy. Sometimes you hear the record and then you hear the live, and there's like, okay, there's been some tech involved.
Oh my god, yeah. Absolutely.
And you know this more than I, because you do a lot of sessions and stuff. So it's
that was such a good advice. I remember you saying to me, if you don't ask, you don't get. Like, simple, but like you were saying to me, you gave me a good lecture on it, and I remember you said like, no one's going to come to you, no one's going to, really, hindsight, UK, you might get offered some stuff, but no one really is going to come to you. You need to put yourself out there and do stuff like that, even though it sounds, you're sort of separating the personality. Like my personalities, and like I think you're probably similar, where like it's like horrible to kind of do that ask. You're not like you're begging for a gig, but it's like it needs to be done because
I never personally. I think just be very clear about what it is.
Be sincere, yeah. Be sincere what you're doing, yeah.
It's not. You're not. There's nothing. There's literally nothing wrong with it.
No,
I'm very comfortable now because again, there's no. If you're sincere and you believe in what you have to say with your music, it's fine. I mean, and worst case scenario, people will say, okay, you know what, I it's not possible, but thank you, and keep in touch, and and then you can harass them again a few months.
Yeah, what's the worst they're going to say? They're going to say no.
And especially in your case, I mean, like, you're just such a consummate professional and such an incredible player, which you can deliver. I mean, I don't recommend. Yes, if you've been playing for a few months or you can't sing or whatever, and I've had situations with a few students who were like, okay, well, I want to do this, and I'm like, okay, well, at the current state you're probably not going to get anything, but if you work on it, and most people, to their credit, they'll put the work in, and then you get to a point where you're ready to do it. I mean, I would never go to a big band jazz band and say, oh, I want to sit in. I'll never do that. It's not my world. I haven't breathed this music. I haven't put so you have to have a bit of self knowing, self is that
I know what you mean. You have,
or I'm not going to say, can I open for a deathcore band or whatever, but if you got your wits about you, and then there's literally nothing bad that could happen, and so you should ask. And I know it's in the because you're a fine English lad. Like I know in the English demeanor, maybe it's not as natural. I can
think that's what
imagine
it is.
America
I
much
think
more
that's
like
too polite, maybe.
get attitude. Which is the charm of Englishness, I think, is like you know, it's always that sort of you feel you're gonna intrude and it's dude, whatever. But it's I think
Yeah.
it's a great thing. So anybody who's you know, people who listen to this, really just go around, if you're in a city, that's especially cities that are well connected, and or if you drive or whatever, then just see who's playing around you and just shoot them a message with your
It's good
one song.
advice. It's really good advice.
That's better than, and it's better doing one or two of those gigs for a few months than you know, sort of working for promoters who don't give a crap and playing for, unless you're like, I don't know, if you're like a teen or you're just trying to looking to cut your teeth, yeah, just go play every night. But it's better, let's say, to just spend time practicing and rehearsing and then just do the gigs that matter.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah, I mean, it's in context of like where you say where you are in your life, where you are in your practice, where you are as a musician yourself, if you're ready to do that. But
Yeah.
like an established person,
sometimes you might not feel you're ready, but you need to do that. You know what I mean? Like your first gig is going to be probably your worst gig, but you have to do your first gig to then do the 100th gig.
Yes.
You know, it's like you know, also like the first gig of the tour is probably the worst one. The last gig of the tour is probably the best one. I mean, it's because it doesn't matter how much you rehearsed. It's like, it's just how it is. You know,
it's a different kind of pressure, isn't it? Yeah.
You have to do the first gig. You have to suck at some point, and then you slightly suck less as you go along.
Yeah. Then you just don't suck by the end of it.
And that is the problem with, again, a very a low attention interaction sort of sphere now, where it's like, well, it has to be the perfect thing. I don't know about you, like, because we, you know, we're same age, I think. Like, we came at a time where you'd buy maybe the VHS of the concert, and you sit and you watch the whole thing. And I've seen my attention span shrink, and I have to battle that. Like
social media, it's the time lapse of people's concentration, or they'll listen to. I found myself like, if I'm listening to something or a podcast, I'll listen to it on 1.5 speed, just so it's horrible.
I can never do that.
Oh man, I do.
I mean, there's some slow,
but
yes, some speakers, but like I don't know, some people talk really fast as it is.
Yeah, I know, but it's just, yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But yeah, and I mean, going on from that, how do you find like the guitar community has changed from the time where you've come on from MySpace and like that kind of era to where we are now?
To be honest, I don't.
Or don't you care? Like, do you really care for it?
Oh, but no, I don't. I don't really know. I guess like, I just my own experience. I found myself being, because I mean, when I started, when you started, probably the same time, I guess. Like, and obviously I was in Greece. We're a bit behind tech wise than other places. So I mean, in countries like Greece, I mean, it always takes maybe not so much now, but still a year for things to catch on. But like, you know, I remember just listening to stuff and being like, you know, I remember the experience of having the audio, but just having the audio and being completely like, what the hell is this? It's such a shame that kids are not going to have that now, I think, because I don't know, there's something about that just purely audio sensory experience where you listen to something like, oh, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And now you're never going to have that, because you're probably, whoever going to release music, they're going to put it, I keep lifting my phone, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not sponsored.
Everyone
whatever
watches
this one is. No, we're okay for time, by the way. We can go longer. It's okay. I'll tell you when it is.
Yeah, just give us a heads up.
It's like there's going to be a video, so you're going to watch it and listen. You're not just going to listen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Your senses are engaged in almost like the production first, rather than the music. You know.
So there was that element of surprise. I mean, how things change, I don't really know. I just feel, again, not paying attention too much. I guess if I was someone starting now, I would find it incredibly inspiring, but also incredibly paralyzing because there's just too much stuff out there.
Yeah.
I yeah, that really, I mean, like in a way it's great. I mean, you know, to think that more people have access to internet, for example, than to a bank account, which is why, I mean,
Scary.
side note, much of the work that's done in the developing world to try and lift it out of poverty is work with internet banking and things like that, being able to give them funds directly through internet services. But anyhow, my point being, you know, you can have a child in a country where they might not have an access to a teacher, but be able to go on Instagram or YouTube and even if they have a crappy instrument, just learn, so which is amazing. I just feel with that comes there's just the element of mystique that's gone, you know. And
almost like let me work it out for myself, like, because content is too easy to find and like.
Yeah, it's also it's not very conducive to accidents, and accidents produce fantastic things with something that's as low stake as music. Yeah, if you're working on a nuclear plant, probably not great to have accidents. But with music, like, it's like an accident can lead you down a different path altogether. And I think I definitely echo. Okay, musicians are way older than us, but something like what Nuno said is the thing where you listen to the record and you try to figure it out. And there's accidents, but that might shape how you're going to sound later. So I think that's the thing that's kind of interesting.
It's definitely taken that kind of like organic process of like learning it and like being, like you said earlier, like crap at something and trying to work on it whilst, you know, that target to get overly polished, that super polished thing is just almost unrealistic and impossible to a lot what you see. I think that's the biggest thing. Like you said, if you're starting out now and you're playing guitar and you open up Instagram and you see a lot of the stuff that's in there, you think, heck, how is that possible? Purely from the production side or editing side or anything like that. Not saying it's a bad thing or anything. I mean, but it definitely.
I mean, technology, I think, is made the production. I mean, it's crazy what you can do with good lighting and just an average, you know, phone. Like, I'm not a phone junkie, whatever. I have a okay phone, but you can get decent videos.
Yeah.
So in the production, I think technology certainly helped. The fact that you can just plug into your computer and you can get. In that respect, I fully understand why the production, let's say, has gone more polished, but. And for sure, like I think a lot of people, you know, you hear playing amazing. It's a product of many years of work, but it's the fact that what you see is just the very best represent. And so, yes, I know there's fuckery with like editing or whatever. I understand that, but yeah, you don't get the process as much. You just get like the perfect thing because you know people are going to look at it for 10 seconds and that's it. And that's why that's the one aspect I don't like about, let's say, this level of content, you know, the lick oriented content. Although it is, I'm not saying nothing. There's people who do amazing, check fantastic creative licks, but it's just like people would just be there for that. They want the lick in 10, 15 seconds. But I like people, like, I'm kind of more drawn to concepts, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
They take more time. I'm not diminishing the lick. You can understand a concept with lines and stuff. I'm saying like, you know, what kind of the 10-second lick or whatever. I get why it's great and why, because, you know, imagine if you have to work in an office and you only have limited time. Oh, you can learn something new. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. But it's just it's almost like lamenting the time where we maybe had a bit more patience with things.
Patience, the hard work, I think. Yeah, and you're right about the lick. Is, you know, if it's for some people, I think people are wanting to better their guitar playing skills in the long run. It's those concepts which are going to help you further than just learning a particular lick. And that was one of the things which you were very strong on, and like breaking down something, trying to play in different keys, analyzing the harmony, analyzing what's going on underneath, analyzing the intervallic structure and stuff, which is going on, which maybe, I don't know if people are doing that enough. Maybe nowadays people are just seeing.
Depends. I think in some it depends the lingo. I'm thinking to be honest, in some styles, in some aspects of music, you don't really like need to, let's say. It's not a prerequisite.
No.
Maybe it's not a prerequisite in any style. It depends. One of my close friends, his family have a Nigerian church, so it's not quite like gospel music like in the American way, but it's very much like sort of cultural. There's that heritage of tradition there, and you have kids who've been playing there since they were young, and they can really navigate changes and stuff like that. Maybe not in a way that's a product of analyzing, but it's a product of like culture and osmosis, and just there's a primal connection to that stuff. But I do certainly believe if you want to communicate it with someone, and if you want to take something and really expand it into other things, there has to be a level of understanding beyond that. And hopefully, if you understand this enough, then you can almost represent it as if it's a primal kind of osmosis thing. So you can play it, and it feels, let's call it, natural.
Yes.
So it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah. And at the start, it's never going to feel like that, is it? If you don't know it, to understand, say, finding chord tones, for example, it's going to feel very foreign to you, which is the kind of thing which happened when I came to you. It's like, okay, you could play this kind of stuff to a kind of level, but then asking me to find the third of a chord or whatever, I was like, well, yeah, I don't know. So it's all.
I know, and I mean, yeah, totally.
So I was just gonna say that it's in the context of what you wanting to play. So the kind of things we did, we needed to understand that kind of thing. I guess if you're just dropped in
correct,
riffing,
but I just same. It's for me. Whenever I approach things where I haven't touched before, something, it's not going to feel as, let's call it again, natural at first. I think a lot of it is doing the groundwork and having the perseverance and having the correct instruction for having things sound, let's call it, or being able to just deploy certain things in a way that's not as calculated, in a way that's more a product of just responding to whatever musical situation you're embedded yourself in. And that's a hard thing for any of us to confront. But it's in everyday life you can find that. It's not just strict to music. Anything, any craft, any sort of thing,
Yeah.
Because I remember my first shift on Starbucks, I was shit, and I was a long time after that.
I don't think I knew you worked at Starbucks.
Oh, many things, that's many. My most did security for a music venue near my school, and security wasn't that risky. Just being on the door or whatever.
Yeah.
Many things. I think character building things,
Yeah.
But nah, especially wherever there is craft, I don't think, maybe for a select few people can just pick up an instrument and do it. But I think the difference is, I think if we all if people put in the work, they're going to reach a level for sure. And then I think there's just some other elements which can be a product of your environment or your innate characteristics that will push some people further than others. And then of course it's a personality thing. Like if you're more reserved, maybe you'll end up playing in a more reserved way, or maybe be the opposite. Maybe you'll feel so at home with stage that you're just gonna destroy the place. Like the singer from Disturbed, unbelievable. Like the guy sounds like a demon, fantastic, unbelievable technician of the voice, very powerful. But when you hear him talk, he's such a low key kind of guy. So for him, is that. But you
find that a lot, I think, don't you? They come out, their personality can come out when they're performing. It's like this rip off the mask kind of thing, and just show them what I've been working on or what I'm all about. Some people don't have that confidence to do that.
And sometimes you do see people where you hear them play and then you meet them and you're like, I make sense, because like you play. I'm more like that, in my opinion, as far as I think my personality is represented in my playing. Whereas I'm not saying that. I'm saying my personality, if we were to interact, you'd probably think, okay, well, that the playing makes sense. Whereas other people, you get really surprised, and it's awesome. I mean, I see it with a few students of mine. We're like very, you see those quiet people, and then I've seen them on stage, and they're just like
different people.
Demons. Yeah, man.
It's so it's hard to judge who is going to be like that, though.
Yeah, and I guess in the end, if once you hit the stage, your mind has left you enough to allow you to be there, then whatever happens.
Yeah. No, so
Must have done the work first. I think that's the part that's missed sometimes, like if you don't do the work, it could be it could be like faulty towers or something.
oh my god, yeah, just like, but like you were saying, you were alluding to earlier, it's like it's the people having the patience to just sit down and really drill through not the boring stuff, but the stuff which is going to get you to that point where you can be confident in your own playing of the stuff you want to play.
Yeah, and that can be very a variety. If you aspire to be punk musician, there's certain things that you'll do, and you won't. There's so many things that you won't need to consider. But yeah. I mean, yeah, I think foundations are so super important, especially if you want to have that sort of breadth of an umbrella of different stuff that you wish to express musically,
Yeah,
stylistic stuff, like for sure, for sure.
and
And you know that you play a lot of stuff, so it's important.
no, yeah, no, I think it is important. I know you alluded to like all your clusters and your chord stuff earlier. How have you like I know it's probably a long kind of topic, but how have you developed the sound that you want to play at? How did that come up? One, how did that come about? Two, are you still working on a particular sound now that you're trying to evolve?
Um, I mean, that kind of came about quite accidentally, actually. I used to pick quite a lot, and I got RSI basically for people who don't know. And if you've seen me, I've done a few DVDs with like Lick Library, or even on some of the shows on tour. You can see me wearing this sort of strap thing in
Yeah,
here. I suffered from RSI twice in my life, and both times it was a spell of about 2-3 years. So I first got RSI when I was 19, repetitive strain injury, and it was epicondylitis. That's basically a tear here, if I'm not mistaken. But also I had tennis elbow. It was just from overplaying. I was quite obsessed. I mean, I was playing for like, such a long time, both hands. So
oh,
what happened? It meant that I don't really have a great picking technique in a sense. Yes, I can play fast and clean, but it's quite involved. Like some people just pick like that, and that's quite effortless. I'm like a bit more like I'm getting the hands
from the
involved, which
arm,
I've
yeah.
tried to change. But so I couldn't do that, and you have to imagine like 2 or 3 years of playing or whatever, and having to ice quite a lot after playing. It was quite. You just sort of get used to the pain. It's a more tolerable pain than wrist pain, which I got in 2015, and I had to stop for 10 months, playing for 10 months. Wrist is the worst. Tendons are the worst. Muscles are tolerable, but anyhow, I couldn't really pick a lot. So I naturally was trying to explore something that was a bit more, let's say, physically sort of tolerable, like
Yeah,
effortless,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
say. That's how that came about over a long period. So it was not even a conscious thing. It was just like I just started doing hybrid picking and just like using like with fingering the strings instead of playing with the pick, and slowly. I mean but that was not by design. I just sort of liked the sound. I thought it was cool, whatever. I didn't even know it was called cluster. For much of it, I didn't even think about. I'm just playing a scale in a chordal way,
Yeah.
chordally, that kind of chordal thing where you hear more than one notes ringing when you're sliding and this and that. So I guess now I've certainly tried to develop it in a way that's more informed melodically. So if I want to apply a certain sound over a certain chord, I know how to navigate. Which I didn't know before. Maybe I do this just purely because I like the sound, but it wasn't as informed thing. And mind you, I get asked about it with people that I work with, so it makes sense that I know this very well, so I
Mm,
can communicate
mm.
that. And it's just try to use it in ways in different harmonic contexts and stuff. So it's trying to see how that works on that. So I mean, arguably, I don't spend, for better or worse, too much time. I don't like practice every day. I mean, I play every day, but after focusing mostly on getting the set together and feeling comfortable playing some stuff that are very challenging, stood up. I know it must sound trivial, but I think it's very important.
No, that's a good
It's
point.
like you can play something sat down if you think it's gonna be as easy. You stand up and you don't. Don't wear my guitar like here. Like you play a rock show, you have to have the guitar reasonably
Yeah, yeah,
low.
yeah.
I'm not like it's a whole thing by itself. Believe me. I learned the hard way on the Guitar Idol. It's been also filmed. I went from playing just stood up to then standing up, and I was like, I couldn't play a thing. So it's very important to spend the time playing stood up, and it's a challenge if you're not gigging every week or whatever. But you have to make a point of doing
That's
that.
good. That's good advice. That's really good advice.
Believe me, it's do not take this for granted. I did, and it hurt. So yeah, I guess back to your question, it's more like how do you say being able to communicate different movements and stuff. So that's what I'm kind of working on, exploring sounds that I've never really explored before. So in that kind of respect, you know.
Yeah.
So that's just a different sound.
So you kind of stumbled upon it accidentally and just like ran away with it, and it's just become part of, like, that's what I think people can, you know, personally like about your playing. When you play, you can hear it's you. You know.
Oh, thank you.
It's
yeah, I mean, it's up to the people to decide, I guess. I don't
oh
really.
no, and I mean, it's so unique, but it's also musical, and it's very melodic, and it's not just like you're blasting over whatever. When you do go, you know, when you do go for it, it's like, okay, you can hear. For me, anyway, you know, I can hear, and I think people listen to your stuff after this.
I guess it's a. Thank you. But again, it's like, I don't. You know, it's not a conscious thing. It's just. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I have consciously stopped playing stuff which are not, like, you know, I spent a lot of time when I was younger learning how to sweep. I don't really do this anymore because I can't make it sound different.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the process is you have to sometimes leave stuff behind. Like a lot of the Paul Gilbert stuff, which I you know, sweat over playing. I don't really use them anymore because I'm like, I can't make it sound different. He did for him, you know, he's got a so yes, some stuff you have to leave behind consciously, and although it might hurt, you have to. In my opinion, if you want to have you have to be able to identify what doesn't sound like you.
Yeah. And what you like the sound of, like, even though that stuff may be technically hard or whatever you want to play, if it sounds crap to you, then don't do it.
No, I mean, yeah, by no means the Paul Gilbert stuff sound crap. I mean, I enjoy the sound of them, and I occasionally use them. It's more like I know that if I do it, it's just going to sound like it's so associated with one particular musician.
Sure, yeah.
Or to like Al Di Meola or whatever, which I just can't escape that. So I personally choose not to. So yes, there's definitely a part where you consciously decide not to do stuff because they're not as because you aim to do what maybe is more of your voice. But like as far as that, all that stuff, yeah, it did start out of a necessity really because of an injury, and then it was just like, I don't know, sounded kind of jolly.
Yeah. For the record, I wasn't saying it was crap. I was just in case anyone interprets that different, I was saying it. Is this sort of sound you want to
be on James Davies
slags off
Paul Gilbert is crap.
I think Paul Gilbert's amazing. So
he's awesome. He's an awesome guy.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'll probably need to dash in 5 if that's all right with you.
That's absolutely fine, man. Yeah.
We can if you now is the time to talk about our intimate secrets. We have 5 minutes.
Right, we'll end that there. George, thank you. No. No, from my own point of view, like I say, I've got to know George well over the last like 5-6 years. Him showing me a bunch of stuff, concepts, and to be honest, changed my whole outlook and my playing. And if it wasn't for this dude, I don't think, you know,
you earned everything. You're very hardworking and a total pro, and no, it's, I mean, unbelievable. You're on fire.
No, bless you.
People will. I mean, you told me some stuff before, so I'm not gonna. I know it's confidential, but
yeah.
You're gonna know more of James very soon.
I hope so, but
for the right reasons, not for the bad reasons.
Not the wrong reason. No, but it you know, and I've come up to your place a few times in London, and you've made me feel very welcome and stayed, and we've become kind of.
But you're a great guy, man. You're a great guy, and no, it's I think it's one of the let's end it on a good note. Is that music? What it does, one of the best thing it does is brings people together. And I do, you know, I never believed that music. I don't believe music could change the world. I believe music mirrors the times in a way. I believe that you have to. I believe when people engage into action, they change the world. I believe music mirrors
Yes.
at the time.
Yeah.
Oftentimes,
Yeah.
I do find, music can be a revolutionary act. If you're like Tomaj Salehi, he's a rapper in Iran. He was jailed and tortured for over a year now because he raps against the government. So in that respect, yeah. But overall, but what I was going to, so in this respect, it can, it can really capture and it can really move people. But what I think the best thing that music can do, and it's a very simple thing. Like, it can just ignite something to people that just gives you a focus, and a good type of focus, um uh, and that is, I think there can be a lot of meaning injected in one's life if there is a good focus.
Yeah.
It steers you away from a lot of bad noise, so I think that's really, it's about, community, and that's what I bring into you. It's we share that, and beyond that, of course, you're a fantastic moral person, and I think that's the great thing that music can do. Really, if it brings people together and it ignites that sense of focus, which um, it just it can keep you away from a hell of a lot of bad noise, and I think that's sort of beautiful. That's the beautiful thing, and you meet good people and you connect, and of course that's not the only thing. Yeah, you have to have similar values, at least
Of
to a
course.
degree.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but that's the beautiful thing. I think, like, if a teenager finds music in a way that it moves them so, in an unshakable way, where it does something that is sort of, it gets them to be almost obsessed with it,
Mm.
like it's an instrument or music production, or they, I don't know, singer, rapper, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's really the most it's a fantastic thing, because it can really inject a lot of meaning, and it can hopefully shape a better community, sort of a better.
Oh, 100% agree. Yeah, it's so important. So important. Well, look, I know I'm
Yeah,
conscious of your time, so I'll thanks, George,
that
for
was
joining
that
me
was
just for a
awesome.
chit chat,
You
and
should,
just
you should invite me for season 2
we'll
if
do a
you
part 2. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I like it. It's
When
just
the
been
new season airs, you tell me.
let's see if I get another yeah, I need some injection of money. Talk about promotion and that.
It's all right. If you run out of guests, I can just wear a wig or something and pretend to
Yeah,
be someone else. I don't know.
let's do it.
Get in
Yeah.
character.
No, it's been fun. It's just good to not only just talk about, bits of the music industry, but just chit chat and not really, don't have to ask you what your gauge string you're playing and stuff like that and what picks you use.
I don't. You know, I need to buy strings, and
That's
I have a hybrid. I think it's 11. The top 3 are 11 set, and the bottom 3 are a 10 set. I think
is it.
that's
That's what I love about
very
you,
cool.
actually. I remember when I got my my Neurocore Cortex, I was like, oh yeah, I'll bring it up, I'll show you. He's like, man, I don't care.
No, that sounds mean.
Yeah, it was mean,
I
and I cried.
It was a bit mean.
I
Yeah.
know, I know what you mean.
I care more for you. I care more for your company and the jams and the food, and
Yeah.
but no, it does sound very good, I have to say.
He's
I
changed
have
his
heard.
mind.
No, it sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them.
Oh man,
There's like a Fender got one, and I don't
Fender.
know.
Obviously, the helix. You lose the helix, don't you?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
floor. There's loads.
They bring it.
It's kind of
I
all the
don't know. We
same,
should.
isn't it?
Let's make a new one. Let's make a new one.
Let's do it.
We can do our own version of it.
Let's do it. Yeah. No, thanks, George. And like, if anyone doesn't know your stuff, I will post all your links to
Oh,
your
thank you.
music, your
Appreciate it.
videos below.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, if you don't know,
And I'll be sharing it also on my
perfect.
socials. So I'll make sure to link to you and
Amazing.
amazing playing. And like I said, people will be seeing more of you, and I'm really happy for that. So
Don't know if that's a
awesome.
good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, man. Thank
Cheers,
you.
dude. Thank you.
Cheers, bro.
Goodbye.